Poetry Center, bringing poetry to Patterson since 1980 at Passaic County Community College.
Anyway, I'm very pleased to welcome you here to the Poetry Center at Passaic County Community College, and I do want to say that the programs that the Poetry Center runs would not be possible without the help of funding from the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, Department of State, the National Endowment for the Arts, and Passaic County Community College, and individual donations from individuals and corporations. We've been very fortunate in the kind of support that we've gotten, and since I grew up poor, I can always make do somehow and get a lot of things out of a penny. So we really don't need a huge amount of money, but we certainly have been very happy to have the money that's been donated by individual people. We're putting up the new brochure on the website, and we'll also be sending out copies of the brochure as soon as it gets printed. So if you've recently given a donation, your name will appear there. Today we're very pleased to welcome two wonderful poets, Marie Howe and Sharon Dubiago. Marie Howe is the author of 2 volumes of poetry, The Good Thief and What the Living Do, and the co-editor of a book of essays, In the Company of My Solitude, American Writing from the AIDS Pandemic. Stanley Kunitz selected Howe for a Levon Younger Poets Prize from the American Academy of Poets. She has, in addition, been a fellow at the Bunting Institute at Radcliffe and a recipient of an NEA and Guggenheim Fellowships. Her poems have appeared in the New Yorker, the Atlantic Poetry, Agni, Plowshares, Harvard Review, and the Partisan Review, among others. Currently, Howe teaches creative writing at Sarah Lawrence College, Columbia, and New York University. I have to say about Marie Howe that I think that What the Living Do is one of the strongest books of poetry I've ever read. And I recommend it every semester to my graduate students and my undergraduate students. I love the book. I love Marie Howe's poetry. I love her honesty, her directness, her playing with the long line, all the wonderful things she does with her poetry. Let's welcome Marie Howe.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Maria. Force of nature, woman, goddess, warrior, poetry warrior, spiritual warrior in the world. Thank you for everything you do, Maria, for every minute, all these years, all this time. I was saying to Sharon, Maria is just an extraordinary presence in the world of poetry, and you've made just so much flowering happen. It's always a pleasure to do anything with you. It's great to see you all. I'm so grateful to the people in my workshop for your work and your presence today. Thank you. It's really moving to be with you. I'm really glad to meet you.
That's Rosemary Johnson. Excuse me, Rosemary, who does a wonderful job doing our signing.
It's okay. Rosemary Johnson. Hi.
Hi.
Let's meet
Nice to meet you too. The poems I'm going to read are all from the next book, which I'm handing in a week, and it's called Kingdom of Ordinary Time. Anybody here know what ordinary time is in the liturgical calendar? Ordinary time, you know. What is it, ordinary time? You. Yeah, you know.
Oh, in the church year?
Yeah.
When the calendar runs, yeah.
What is it? What's ordinary time?
It's not Easter, it's not...
No, yeah, you're right. It's not Easter, it's not Christmas. That's
So we always have something we call the entire year. When is ordinary time?
good question. What is ordinary time? In the church year or the liturgical year for some of us growing up, Remember, there's the Advent, there's Lent, there's the High Holy Seasons, and in between there's this period called Ordinary Time, which I loved growing up because you turn the pages of the Missal and it'd be the coming of Ordinary Time, and then the first Sunday of Ordinary Time, the second Sunday of Ordinary Time. And this notion of Ordinary Time, even when I was a young girl, was interesting to me. It struck me as a time, I mean, metaphorically speaking, where nothing apparently miraculous was happening, right? But it's the time, it seems, that most of us live in. And at this period in our lives, of in the world history, where so much is being done in the name of religions, and yet there's so many of us who don't know what we believe. I keep thinking about this notion of ordinary time. So here's a little prologue to the book. Just refers to a couple of the miracles of the New Testament, the loaves and the fishes, which Maria does on a weekly basis. Nothing else you really need to know is a prologue. The rules once again applied. One loaf equaled one loaf. One fish equaled one fish. The so-called kings were dead. And the woman who had been healed grew tired of telling her story, and sometimes asked her daughter to tell it. People generally worshipped where their parents had worshipped. The men who'd hijacked the airplane prayed where the dead pilots had been sitting, and the passengers prayed from their seats. So many songs went up and out into the thinning air. People listening and watching nodded and wept. And leaving the theater, one turned to the other and said, "What do you want to do now?" And the other one said, "I don't know. What do you want to do?" It was the coming of ordinary time. First Sunday, second Sunday, and then, for who knows how long, it was here. After the movie, thanks guys. After the movie, my friend Michael and I are walking home, arguing about the movie. He says that he believes a person can love someone and still be able to murder that person. I say no, that's not love. That's attachment. Michael says, no, that's love. You can love someone, then come to a day when you're forced to think it's him or me, think me, and kill him. I say, then it's not love anymore. Michael says, it was love up to then, though. I say, maybe we mean different things by the same word. Michael says, humans are complicated. Love can exist even in the murderous heart. I say that what he might mean by love is desire. Love is not a feeling, I say. And Michael says, then what is it? We're walking along West 16th Street, a clear, unclouded night. And I hear my voice repeating what I used to say to my husband. Love is action, I used to say to him. Simone Weil says that when you really love, you are able to look at someone you want to eat and not eat them. Janis Joplin says, take another little piece of my heart now. Meister Eckhart says that as long as we love any image, we are doomed to live in purgatory. Michael and I stand on the corner of 6th Avenue saying goodnight. I can't drink enough of the tangerine spritzer I've just bought. Again and again, I bring the cold can to my mouth and suck the stuff from the hole the flip top made. What are you doing tomorrow? Michael says. But what I think he's saying is, you are too strict. You are a nun. Then I think, do I love Michael enough to allow him to think these things of me, even if he's not actually thinking them? Above Manhattan, the moon wanes and the sky turns clearer and colder, although the days after the solstice have started to lengthen. We both know the winter has only begun. Here's a little poem called Courage from the Playground, where I learn a lot these days, or I used to. Courage. I'm helping my little girl slide down the pole next to the slide and bridge construction when a little boy walks up and says, "Why are you helping that young person do something that's too dangerous for her?" "Why do you say it's too dangerous?" I say. And he says, "She's too young." And I say, "How old are you?" And he says, 4.5. And I say, "Well, she's 3.5. He comes back a little later and says, "I'll show you how it's done," and climbs up the ladder and slides down the pole. Then he says, "She's too young." What happens is that when you get older, you get braver. Then he pauses and looks at me. "Are you brave?" "Brave?" I say, looking at him. "Are you afraid of Parasite 2? He says. And I say, "What's Parasite 2? And he walks away slowly, shaking his head. Would you rather? My sister told me that when she was giving birth, every time a contraction passed, she was surprised she was still conscious, proud that she hadn't passed out. The guy on the Nature Channel said that the anaconda tried to eat the large gazelle, but when his mouth got to the wide horns, he stopped. High over the city now, one silver airplane flying towards Europe, towards the past. Some of the people on the plane must be reading the newspaper, holding the pages out in front, or reading the paper folded as if the plane were a subway. And the woman shot, running with her 2 children towards the forest, shot with one child in her arms, is a story someone on the plane is reading. The other child running behind her, shot too, her body found on the path 2 or 3 feet behind her mother's. And the baby apparently shot where he fell. The anaconda will eat the gazelle until his mouth knocks against the horns. His mouth isn't wide enough to admit. Then his jaws unhinge and widen. The man said the anaconda will admit the horns even if they rip his body open from the inside. Would you rather be the woman or one of the soldiers? The baby or the soldier who shot and bayoneted the baby when he got there? There's a little poem called Limbo, which is another state that apparently doesn't exist anymore. Did I imagine this, or did the Pope come out and say that there is no hell?
You imagined it.
This Pope?
The Pope before this. I swear he did this. I know there's no more limbo, apparently, although everybody I know lives there. But I think he came out and said that I feel like I dreamt it, but I also feel like it was true, that the Pope before this came out and said there is no such place as hell. Hell is a state of mind, and it's loneliness, which feels true. Limbo. Each of them can't decide if there is a God or if there is a self. Do I have an I, one says, to another, who seems distracted, looking out what might have been a window. What is the difference between a self and a soul? Is it true that one God is in relationship to each of us, or is the each of us an illusion, and we are the God we are looking for? That's what the distracted one is thinking, and what she wants to know. And she wishes that other person would stop bothering her, and she wishes she had more time to think about these things, although she has all the time in the world. Don't you feel like we should just have a crowd with us whenever we do something like empty the dishwasher? Like, you know, fill the dishwasher. I feel like, you know, that's the stuff we need to get applauded for every day. Like the filling and the emptying. And thank God there is a dishwasher, right? I'm not complaining about the dishwasher, believe me, I'm not. The Star Market. Did anybody here grow up with a Star Market? You did? The big green star on top? Ooh. The Star Market. The people Jesus loved were shopping at the Star Market yesterday. An old lead-colored man standing next to me at the checkout breathed so heavily I had to step back a few steps. Even after his bags were packed, he still stood, breathing hard and hawking into his hand. The feeble, the lame, I could hardly look at them. Shuffling through the aisles, they smelled of decay, as if the Star Market had declared a day off for the able-bodied, and I had wandered in with the rest of them. Sour milk, bad meat, looking for cereal and spring water. Jesus must have been a saint, I said to myself, looking for my lost car in the parking lot later, stumbling among the people who would have been lowered into rooms by ropes, who would have crept out of caves or crawled from the corners of public baths on their hands and knees, begging for mercy. If I touch only the hem of his garment, one woman thought, I will be healed. Could I bear the look on his face when he wheeled around? Who touched me? He said. Marriage. My husband likes to watch the cooking shows, the building shows, the Discovery Channel, and the Surgery Channel. Last night he told us about a man who came into the emergency room with a bayonet stuck entirely through his skull and brain. Did they get it out? We all asked. They did. And the man was okay because the blade went exactly between the two halves without severing them. And who had shoved this bayonet into the man's head? His wife. A strong woman, someone said. And everyone else agreed. A lot of married people in the audience, I think. Okay, I'm going to read from this little group of poems, these Mary poems. I love Mary, the mother of Jesus. I love her as a person. Meister Eckhart, the great mystic, said that perhaps Jesus was the fruit of Mary's enlightenment. Doesn't that feel true? Doesn't it feel true? Perhaps Jesus is the fruit of Mary's enlightenment. This is just a very short group of little sonnets in her voice. And it's her before she was a mother. It's her as a person, existentially alive as we are in the world. Talking about moments in her girlhood. Sometimes the moon sat in the well at night, and when I stirred it with a stick, it broke. If I kept stirring, it swirled like white water, as if water were light, and the stick a wand that made the light follow, then slow into water again, unwobbling until the wind moved it. And I thought of all the moons, floating in the wells and rivers, spilling over rocks where the water broke, moons in the sheep water, the chicken water, or here or there an orb bent it, or a woman spread out her skirt and let it pool there. The light, I mean, not the moon in a circle, not the moon itself, but the light that fell from it. Once or twice, or 3 times, I saw something rise from the dust in the yard like the soul of the dust, or from the field, the soul body of the field, rise and hover like a veil in the sun billowing, as if I could see the wind itself. I thought I did it, squinting, but I didn't. As if the edges of what is blurred, so what was in bled out, breathed up and mingled, bush, cow, dust, well, breathed a field I walked through waist high as through high grass or water, my fingers swirling through it or it through me. I saw it, thing and spirit both, the real world, evident, invisible. Thank you. How you can't move moonlight, how you can't move moonlight. You have to go there and stand in it. How you can't coax it from your bed to come and shine there. You can't carry it in a bucket or cup it in your hands to drink. Wind won't blow it. A bird flying through it won't tear it. How you can't sell it or buy it or save it or earn it or own it. Erase it or block it from shining on the mule's bristly back, dog's snout, duck bill, cricket, toad. Shallow underwater stones gleam underwater. And the man who has just broken the neck of his child, he's standing by the window, moonlight shining on his face and throat. Thanks. You think this happened only once and long ago? Think of a summer night and someone talking across the water. Maybe someone you loved in a boat rowing, and you could hear the oars dripping in the water from half a lake away, and they were far and close at once. You didn't need to touch them or call to them or talk about it later. The sky, it was what you breathed. The lake, sky, that fell as rain. I have been like you, filled with worry, then relief. You know, the wind is sky moving. It happens all the time. And I have to bring in Stanley here, Stanley Kunitz, who was such a good friend and a friend to so many people here I know. When I was writing these, I brought them to him and he said, "Now you must write an Annunciation poem." And yeah, that's what I said. That's exactly what I said, ha ha ha. But of course I went home and tried. And when I gave up, this voice wrote the poem. I had nothing to do with it, nothing. I simply wrote it down. It's Mary talking. Even if I don't see it again, nor ever feel it, I know it is. And that if once it hailed me, it ever does. And so it is myself I want to turn in that direction, not as towards a place, but it was a shifting within myself as one turns a mirror to flash the light to where it isn't. I was blinded like that and swam in what shone at me, only able to endure it by being no one. And so specifically myself, I thought I'd die from being loved like that. I'm just going to read one more last poem. It's a little poem called The Snowstorm to celebrate the spring outside. Oopsie. No, I don't think so. I think I'm going to read this little poem called Hurry. My beautiful assistant is not in the room right now, but It's sort of for my daughter. It's a little thing. Hurry. We stop at the dry cleaners and the grocery store and the gas station and the green market and hurry up, honey, I say, hurry, hurry, as she runs along 2 or 3 steps behind me, her blue jacket unzipped and her socks rolled down as she likes them. Where do I want her to hurry to? To her grave? To mine, where one day she'll stand all grown? Today, when all the errands are finally done, I say to her, honey, I'm sorry I keep saying hurry. You walk ahead of me. You be the mother. And hurry up, she says over her shoulder, looking back at me, laughing. Hurry up, no, darling, she says. Hurry, hurry, taking the house keys from my hands. I'll read it for you. I don't have it. Do you have the book?
I'll run and get a book. You talk. Such a wonderful.
Maria, here, come back. Maria, because she's a bossy woman, is doing, thank you so much. Hey, thank you so much. Maria.
I have it. You got it? Oh, good.
Just to finish, Maria, this is called The Boy. It's for every man who lived through the 60s and came out intact. I'm not talking about Vietnam, I'm talking about the fathers and the arguments at the table. The boy. My older brother is walking down the sidewalk into the suburban summer night. White t-shirt, blue jeans, to the field at the end of the street. Hanger's hideout, the boys called it. An undeveloped plot, a pit overgrown with weeds, some old furniture thrown down there, and some metal hangers clinking in the trees like wind chimes. He's running away from home because our father wants to cut his hair. And in 2 more days, our father will convince me to go to him. You know where he is, and talk to him. No reprisals. He promised. A small parade of kids in feet pajamas will accompany me. Their voices like the first peepers in spring. And my brother will walk ahead of us home. And my father will shave his head bald. And my brother will not speak to anyone the next month. Not a word. Not pass the milk. Nothing. What happened in our house taught my brothers how to leave, how to walk down a sidewalk without looking back. I was the girl. What happened taught me to follow him, whoever he was, calling and calling his name. Thank you. Thank you, Mary.
Our next poet today is Sharon Dubiago. She's written 24 books, most notably the epic poem Hard Country from West End Press, the book-length poem South America, Mejia, University of Pittsburgh, which was nominated twice for the National Book Award, and the poetry collections Psyche Drives the Coast, excuse me, I'm getting double vision, and Body and Soul. She holds 3 Pushcart Prizes for poetry and fiction, the Hazel Hall Oregon Book Award for poetry. She has recently completed her 2-volume memoir, My Father's Love. Portrait of the Poet as a Girl, Volume 1, is scheduled for publication by Redhead Press, and Love on the Streets, New and Selected Poems is under consideration by the University of Pittsburgh. She lives in San Francisco, teaches at New College, conducts private writing workshops, currently in San Francisco and Guatemala. And I'll say, I had not had the pleasure of hearing Sharon Dubiago read until we both read at the Petaluma Poetry Walk, which is a wonderful poetry festival in California. And Sharon got up to read, and I'm always interested in hearing poets whom I've not heard before. And she really was so amazing and so electric and so courageous and so powerful. I immediately said, I have to bring her to the Poetry Center. Let's welcome Sharon Dubiago.
Is there a clock so I can tell when my time is getting up?
There's probably not a clock in here, but
Okay.
I'll wait that.
Are we on time? Okay.
I was looking at my phone.
Okay, great, thank you. It won't go off, will it? I have to say again, as I did this morning, that Patterson, was one of the first 3 books I ever read of poetry. The other 2, it was Carlos Williams Patterson, which I really studied. I mean, I almost got my degree in it. So it's incredible to be here, and because that was the origin for me. The other 2 at the same time were H.D.'s Helen in Egypt and Charles Olson's Maximus poems, all 3 of them book-length poems. So that was my, where that came from, that I published 3 book-length poems. I thought, just to follow Marie, that this was appropriate. This is from my new book, Love on the Streets. It's called Prayer. I wasn't raised in the church. He told me that at the Abbey in Kentucky, they just lay the dead in earth. No box, nothing. May this be my body's luck. But so many dead priests, they've run out of room, so now they dig up the old graves and make a pillow of the bones for the new head to rest on. May this be my love, come at last. I'll do another cemetery poem, and then I'll read something from Hard Country. This is Desire. You'll hear lots of Mendocino on the Mendocino coast in my poems. I've spent many years there. It's 150 miles north of San Francisco. This is the Zenith Hill Catholic Cemetery. If you ever go to Mendocino, go to the Zenith Hill Catholic Cemetery. It's extraordinary. But anyway, at this point, in this poem, a really important friend of mine had just been put there with his wife, and well, you'll hear. And the poet is Robin Ruhl. She's a California poet. Robin's writing a book about desire, and Russ has just gone under the grass here, and I am falling to him, kissing the cement edge between him and Carol, and soon their daughter. Or is Rhonda already here, already wrapped herself in the flag, fired her Gulf War rifle into her head? A love once said he never knew anyone searching for God as hard as me. No, Rhonda. The last time I saw her, she was saluting the flag outside Dick's, the 4th of July parade, marching by. But as I start down to town, I look back. Robin, my little lipstick epitaph is shining in the sun. This is from Hard Country, my first book. They call it an epic poem. I don't think I was so ballsy as to say that when I was writing it. And this is a very early poem, and it's I wrote it on my mother's 58th birthday. My parents were Southerners. They had, I was born a year to the day after they left Tennessee. They pronounced the word buoy as boy. I was born coming to the sea. I was born in Seaside Hospital on a long beach. I was born in Seaside Hospital on a long beach. The boy I heard calling from the sea was a boy calling me, a year to the day they left Ducktown, Tennessee. While I was coming, Daddy rode the rails to catch the wheat harvest in Washington. Mama waitressed the last road west, a Japanese cafe at the end of Redondo Beach Pier. We rode the midnight ghost, Daddy and I, gone north for some money, while Mama and I, at the sunset end of the world, brought food from across the sea. Mama walked all day, the hilly streets above the long sea the day I was born, the new city risen from the earthquake of '38. The boy I heard calling was a sailor who cried from Japanese war, "Don't bring a child into this world," everyone told them. But they laughed. Mama was an orphan. I felt her hold me as her mother had held her through the orphanage walls. All my life, I heard them laughing in the dark. The sea lapping at the doors, the gulls flapping in the windows, the boy calling through the storm. Thanksgivings, we were too poor for turkey. I pointed to a seagull, said my first sentence, "That's okay, Mama, Daddy can shoot an eagle." When the ships came in from war, Friday nights, payday when there was work, we went down to the pike, ate shrimp from Shrimpy Joe's, so cheap we bought bagfuls. We watched the boys come home to neon, to toothless, grinning, red-lipped women who tattooed mother on their chests. Then we drove out the shaky night docks of Terminal Island, sat on the foggy edge beneath groaning oil wells and the dark, squeaky hulls of returned battleships. They told me the sound was a boy out there, telling boats how to come in through the fog. I listened to the waves slapping him around. I heard his crying, his lonely orphanage in the sea. When we fished, I cast my line to him. I was coming to the sea when I was born. The boy I heard through water and storm was a boy calling me. I gotta catch my breath here. A short poem. This is one of my, it's probably my, it's not my best poem by any means, but it's my best known, I think. I find it everywhere. Hallmark cards. My mother is a poem I'll never write. The story of Hard Country is a story of a journey, the breakup of a marriage, the encounter with a new lover. The new lover's mother killed herself when he was 10 on a lake, Tennessee, Authority Lake in Tennessee. And so the new couple go on this journey, basically searching for his mother. And it climaxes on that lake. They spend the night on that lake. But this is my mother. So they go from Mendocino up to Oregon, and then across the north, and then back down through the south. My mother is a poem I'll never write. He couldn't wait to meet my mother. He kept saying, "You'll never know who your woman is until you meet her mother." He said it so often he angered me. He, a safe orphan, with his mother self-drowned. But I think he must see me as she is walking in this light, down from her home to meet us, an orphan herself, but as awesomely clear as anything on this Oregon coast. Even I can feel myself as she comes, carried in that white house between her hips. My mother is a poem I'll never be able to write, though everything I write is a poem to my mother, of whom he later said as we were leaving, "And your mother, oh, your mother, deep, deep water, the waters run deep." I don't know where my breath is. Sorry. I'll read from Hard Country. Body and Soul. This book was published by a man in prison, and all sorts of disaster came as a result of my good deed. We did a lot of memory stuff this morning in my workshop, so this is a poem of something that happened when I was 16, under the steering wheel. We meet again, you the boy I most respected in high school. I have to tell you, I went to high school in a place called Ramona, California, which is about 40 miles northeast of San Diego in the desert mountains. Very remote, still fairly remote place. Under the steering wheel. We meet again, you the boy I most respected in high school. A self-made millionaire, you tell me right off, you've done it. I'm so sorry. We meet again, you the boy I most respected in high school, a self-made millionaire. You tell me right off you've done it morally, and your next goal in life is to become a wise man. You remind me of what I've never forgotten, that it was you who bought my car when I married 2 weeks after graduation, more cheery than any of the boys. And you tell me what I have forgotten, our date to the junior prom. You said you couldn't kiss. Doobie was overseas, but we could just go together. Then back up at your house into the night, you said one kiss would be okay. I got out, you lay back under the steering wheel, your head on the seat. You tell me this almost as a question, as if all these years you're still trying to understand something inexplicable. Outside, I bent over, kissed your lips upside down like that. At first, I don't remember or can't imagine, but I take your word for it, strange and out of character, out of story, that the question in your aura isn't years of your one wife's jealousy, her obsessing on your sexual fantasies, or the locker room gossip still carrying on here, or of even a secret erotic image you've never uttered, and this is why you are whispering. Though if so, I am honored. I take your word for it, this beautiful picture you give me, though something worries me too, how the slander against me has never abated since those days, all my societies, like high school, in that ugly way. If I could tell you the lies told of me, if I could tell you how many times my heart's been broken, karmically forever, by this hill of persecution I fled, wisdom would be yours as infinite as the stars. Then the smell, remembering. Remember what we did? Remembering. Then the smell of car plastic. Then the feel of my 2 large alabaster breasts falling forward to my face from the coral strapless that had been my cousin Billie Jean's before she died in the car accident. Her taffeta petticoats and hoop up to the windows. Maybe lying back on the seat was the only way to maneuver to your lips. Then the perfect round of the steering wheel, then the long shaft of the column, and the pungent sage of Olive Hill, looking up the underside of the saguaro cactus and date palm, and the zillion stars whirling overhead, where we've come from since the beginning of time, and where we're going into extra galactic space. It comes back, clear as the Milky Way, Puchipa, the real ones of this place call it. So let me explain. How will you begin your study if you don't know this? I lay down, an odd girl, so wise she was already an old man. I lay down on that seat, under that most beloved wheel of my life, what would become, though we didn't dream it then, our mutual steering wheel out of there. The smell of plastic rose to my nostrils. It was the only thing to do. One kiss, not of lust, not a broken vow, not betrayal, not infidelity, not seduction, not submission except to the cosmos, not duty, not for material gain, not reputation, not abandon, not mindless, not crazy, not immoral, but for my lips to meet your lips, for my body to breathe in your breath, for your body to breathe in my breath. This was important. I never dreamed in my life of words from these, nor yours of moral money. We were both so poor then, but even then, it was that nothing else was wise. You and I, the absolute demand of the moment, the truth, a photo taken by the stars. I don't know why this never happens to me. I have had the flu the past couple of months. I read this everywhere I go. Again, it's just one of those simple poems. I lived for a long time in the town of Ashland, Oregon. It's where the Shakespeare Festival is. A wonderful theater town. And in that town, up until last year, he died last year, the poet laureate of Vietnam lived, Steve Mason. He was the poet who read at the wall, the dedication. And every year he would give, he was a very theatrical, very wild, crazy man, wonderful man, raising daughters. And I've been writing a book for years about raising a son, so we had much to exchange, and he was a feminist. One night I realized after one of these spectacular shows that he would put on, that I had never heard how it was that he came to change his mind about the Vietnam War. He had been a Green Beret, and so I just asked him, and this is what he told me. Let's bring back my breath.
You want a little water?
Maybe a little water. You zip up. You do your exercises. Okay. The poet laureate of Vietnam. Steve has 3 books of being a Vietnam vet. A woman in the trees changed his mind about the war. I'm an unhung murderer. What saved my mind was becoming a poet. He led them into the jungle village. They killed all the men. Leaving by sampan, he looked up to where they had allowed the women and children to flee. Stony, silent, still sentinels, but for one movement. A tear running down the face of a young woman he could have loved. You had a brother poem, I have a brother poem, and I have a poem called Marriage, too. This book, Body and Soul, the original title was Taboo. It's sort of a compilation of all the things over a certain period of time, where I started to write something and then I thought, no way can you write that. And so I dared myself. And most of the poems in here have a taboo to them. And this one you will recognize instantly what the taboo is. How am I going to read this? My brother's keeper. There is a moment in my life I want to make love to my brother. I want to swim the torrential river between us and save his life. I want to put all my body around his drowning body. I want to pull him into me. We are in Vermont, our first time alone as adults. He has come all the way east, across the continent, rather than commit suicide. He's lost his 3 babies and wife to his best friend. Nights he sleeps in his camper, parked on the side lot beneath trees with leaves like meat turning color. Upstairs in bed with my love, he is out there like he was when we were kids on the porches, because it is wrong for a brother to sleep in the same room as his sisters. And our father, when he comes home from the army, is jealous. To get him here, I have raved about the beautiful college girls of the town. I didn't understand then they were mostly Jewish and would not be drawn to a handsome blonde cowboy. Keep on trekking, taped in iridescence above San Diego plates. Mornings, our bodies from the same bodies face each other in a high northern room over the Winooski, standing to sip our coffees and watch it ice over before our eyes. He tells me the big secret, the 7 years they competed, both making love to her. Someday I will win, the best friend boasted in the beginning, and now he has. And now my brother's other confusion about how beautiful she was in his arms. I'm dreaming of reaching across the ice and pulling my brother to me to make the love I have for him actual flesh. The images float between us so real I know he must see them too, and so knows my cowardice experiences again love's betrayal. But I am struggling too to recover from the night with a man I love, who in our high moments begs me to tell him I desire my brother, to go naked through the snow to his door. Every morning I hold my breath that my brother emerge from the igloo that is his bed. Our father went around the world to war, and our baby brother took his place in Mama's bed. We won, but Daddy was never the same. My brother's legs hurt, and sometimes he forgot, sleepwalked, sobbing back to her. Daddy's yells woke us like nightmares. Sissy, Mama's boy. Some mornings we woke to our mother on the porch, curled around our brother in the crib. Now I am like the Nazis who placed the naked bodies of young Jewesses on their dying soldiers. In the experiment, a woman might bring them back to life. In that high room, at a window like Vermeer, the white stuff starts falling around our two bodies of desert at flood stage, debris of the miraculous flesh our parents risked everything to make. Then I am like Isis combing all the world to put our mother's son back together, so mutilated by our other brother. This is the origin of evil at the beginning of the world. And I want to be a poet, to say my brother, the river, and the distance between us. I want to die, to say what a brother is, to name the river and be the love poem to the soldiers on both sides, our father. To be for all time a line out into the Nile of his severed gonad, inside the fish that swallowed it, rowing mama past our more practical sister, lying down with carrion on the battlefield. My body grown dark as a Jew, the guns at our heads, the chambers of gas on every shore, the prisoners who know nothing now but the fuck their mothers cribbed into evidence against them. And lie down on the cold bronze my brother has become and suck him back. I read one more from, I want to read Marriage. It's a very short poem. Marriage is 128. It's different than yours. Marriage. Did I go to you enough? Did I give you chance enough? Did I shift my own perspective for you enough and not lose my ground? What haunts me is that moment we met. How I saw you across the room, went straight to you and sat down. You shook your head, no. I laughed. You were the first I ever chose first. Then you turned back, marry me. You said, marry me, every day, over and over, through every love act. Then I bathed you, my groom, in the running pearl white tub, starting with your feet in the center of the honeymoon suite above Lake Tahoe, when for the first time you had second thoughts before the ceremony. And this is the pushcart. This is probably more famous than my other poem, although I haven't seen it on a Hallmark card. I've seen many, 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 heard many, many variations on it. How to make love to a man. It's the same guy, it's a husband. I'm famous for my long breath. This never happens to me. Run your tongue down the two tendons, both sides of his neck. Run your tongue back and forth along the ridges of the underside. Run your tongue along the ridges of the head inside his fingers, thighs, Adam's apple, Achilles tendon. Wet the rigid shaft of his calf, the long hair sticking up from his toes, and the ones lying down over them like little blankets. Love his ridges, his frigid soul. Think glacially, constant motion, advancing slowly. Remember, penis envy is what men have of each other. Remember, no man can will an erection. Have him enter you a while, the knee-chest position to dissolve the ridges. Remember, he's terrified. Remember, it's all he wants. Remember, he seeks confidence. You know how to handle his body. You'll grip him firmly enough. Remember, for a man, the importance of technique. Remember, like gripping a tennis racket. Remember, he's emotional. When he comes, be careful not to tighten your grip. Be careful not to forget the battlefields he comes to you from. Forget them, the lies he must overcome to come to you. Forget that to be a man is to be unjust. Remember, his mother removed him from their bed, deposited him on the narrow mattress with bars in the cold cell alone. Make love to all his ex-loves who live in him as surely as he makes love to yours, though he seeks to banish them. Though he will say so kindly, I wish you were free. He wishes to be free. Help him with trance, wear silk, light candles, wear Levi's and flannel, wear nothing. Don't undress. Remember, just dissolve. Remember, no jerky movements. Remember, his greatest fear, he won't be able to please you. He'll lose it. let you down. Remember your walls to clasp and unclasp him. Some will resent this. You will know who. Remember, every man is different, and when it becomes the dance with each's spirit, when the river is more swift than flesh, when you break through to the place, remember, expose yourself. Let him see you. When he comes, be careful not to change. Remember the ridges that you roamed to get here, the fall either side, where the road began, where you are going, when he begins to ascend toward the body cavity, forming a firm, rounded mass, when the ocean synchronistically booms. Approval, his edge of aggression. When you ride his aggression till you remember everything. Remember, this is time, this is earth, this is life, this is you. Remember, so great is his love. He wants all women. A couple of more. How much more time do I have? Huh? Couple more. Okay. This is Sally Hemings' dress. You remember who Sally Heming is, or was? Thomas Jefferson's slave and mother of some of his children. I followed this story all my life, partly because one side of my family is from Charlottesville. In fact, Thomas Jefferson's father was the surveyor that surveyed the land next to Monticello that was in my family. And my family were abolitionists. Then they were, as his neighbor. So that issue as to whether he knew the issues was just, absurd. And the most absurd of all is for me always was the scholars, the academics who, maintained that Thomas Jefferson would not have had sex. Well, guess what? In 2002, the DNA test came in. And when it came in, there's an artist in Charlottesville, Todd Murphy. He, let's see, I've got it written here, get it right. That night, the artist Todd Murphy climbed to the top of the old coal tower in downtown Charlottesville and mounted atop it a 30-foot white dress around a metal form. The dress, despite repeated vandalisms, was up there for several months. I saw a newspaper photograph of it, and it was so beautiful. In fact, I'm hoping to have it for the cover of my next book. And I had it on the wall for a couple years, and finally this poem came. Sally Hemings' dress. When I put on Sally Hemings' white dress, I found myself stepping up the highest building in Virginia. I pulled it off and draped it over the steeple cross. When the sun rose, I was standing there naked, the father of my children. And when the sun set, I was the moon and all the stars, the father of my country. This doesn't mean I don't love Thomas Jefferson and his pants. Of course, only in heaven does he get to wear a dress. Here, even the president can only lie down on the bed, drape it over himself and sigh, what am I to do with this? When he puts the cigar in her vagina, the highest building in the land collapses brick by brick. The dress goes up in flames, semen of sunrise, noose strung from the oak around his neck, bloody cock in my bloody black mouth. But oh moon, you rise again, virgin impenetrable, and I step through the sky in my beautiful dress, issuing forth all the Union and Confederate dead in theirs. Okay, one more. I have a lot of current political, I have to read this. This is it. This will be my last one. I don't even think it's finished, but I started it in 1980. And just found it recently, and I was really stunned by it, and I obviously had tried to make it a poem and gave up. It's a dream I had, June 3rd, 1980. And I just put it together. What you need to know is this is the Mendocino coast. Little River's 2 miles south of the little village. In the redwoods, growing right alongside the redwoods and in the shadow of the redwoods is the Pygmy Forest, and this goes for about 50 miles up the coast. These are ancient trees that are only about 5 feet high, and the soil is called podsol, P-O-D-S-O-L, which is a Russian word from the time the Russians were there. So it's very ironic, the biggest trees and the pygmy. I think that's all you need to know. Okay. You'll know why I'm going to read this. Hitchhiking with Walt Whitman. And I had just come back from South America, the book South America, Me, Howe, which is about this journey I took with my daughter when she was 15. We'd just come back. Me, Howe, and I are hitching up from South America. Sometimes it's a little river across from the market where I birthed as a poet. This is a dream I forget. Sometimes my daughter is the man I love, and it is for him we are stuck. But there's an old man, enormous in stature, personality, hitching up ahead of us, leading the way, his white mane drifting about his head like a storm off the Pacific. Grumbling we're too slow, he hurries across that curve and white line of highway where it descends to Van Dam Beach, his beard now blowing around his cane. But then he slips and falls. Miraculously, he's not hit, but lands on his head. Knocked unconscious, I'm certain he's dead. Rush down, bend to his body, touch his face. The face is a replica of himself. He's made of podzol, clay, and left here. I bend over another, I'm sure is him, but it too, though pleasing, is just another artist's version of his face. His replicas are everywhere. The traffic stops, the crowd gathers around the faces, sculptures of old expressions displayed on the road, up the bluff, the whole sky and ocean. I touch them all, such complicated, beautiful, dead faces. When at last I touch flesh, and he awakens and again leads the way. Up the coastal strip, up specific narrow steps we've never taken before, up the link of hemispheres, across the pygmy, stretched to make the bridge. Did you know that the Mendocino fault line begins in Chile? That's what we learned there. Like the ancients, we must come up it and keep going up it. This is a dream I forget, sometimes even the journey. Thank you, Patterson.